Surprise! We're playing Voiceless. This deck is dope. I've been playtesting it for about a month, a little over online now. Knew that I was going to play it for a while, but just had to wait till the cards came out. We'll have my first tournament coming up on Wednesday that I'll actually get to play in. There might be some minor tweaks that I make to it before then, but for what it's worth, this is like a really good foundation for the deck for anyone that's wanting to play it or look into it. Pure, I think, is hands down like the best way to play it. You can obviously run like the Dogmatica stuff, but I think there's like some minor variants as well. For what it's worth, I think Pure with hand traps is definitely the way to go. This is 41 cards. Definitely feel free to cut a card out, make it 40. I don't know, the ratios are pretty straightforward right now until we get Blessing. We've got, whatever the other continuous is. This one Blessing? Yeah, this one's Barrier. Blessing's the next one that we have. So we don't technically have everything out for the deck yet either. So that once we get the other continuous spell card, this deck is like in the grind game, and like its ability to pop off is like a lot higher, I would say, like just the interactions it has. So without further ado, 3 low. I hate that the fact that they changed this name. It makes sense for like the translation for it meaning law, but this definitely could have been just left as Novox. And also you have to have the cool field center. But 3 low, this is definitely hands down the best card of the deck in terms of getting your engine going, and what it does, everything revolves around having this card out, so you will not be playing anything less than 3. I think I can do some of the basic combos too. 3 Heralds. Some people, I've seen some people not play this, which I think is whack. It is another 1-card starter. The only card I am proxying until Wednesday, until I get from Crackerjack, is the Trias. It's Hierarchia is what it's called. It's a level 9 light monster, 1900 attack, 2900 defense. But during the main phase, whenever it's in your hand or graveyard, it's a quick effect. You contribute up to 3 fairy monsters, and then you special summon this from your hand or graveyard, but then banish it when it leaves the field. And then you can apply the following effects in sequence depending on the number of tributed monsters. So if it's 2, you get to pop or destroy 1 card your opponent controls, and then if it's 3, you get to draw 2 cards. You typically, for what it's worth in playtesting, I don't think the tributing 2 to 3 monsters, not to say that they won't come up, but that's not typically why you play it. You normal summon your Diviner, send, activate this effect to tribute the Herald. Herald's effect will trigger to special summon low, and the low will get you to your barrier, and then you can continue your plays from there. But this does essentially act as another 1-card starter. It is a fairy, it is light, you can send stuff from the extra deck to pop, like say if you need to send ends to hit a floodgate or something. There is utility. She's also a tuner as well, so you can go into Barone, Chaos Angel. I do not think that not playing her would be reasonable. So 3. And then the 1 proxy for now. That's so irritating. That's the only card I don't have. 3 Saphira, the Dragon Queen of the Voiceless Voice. This card's pretty insane. I would like to bling this out. We very easily could over time, since everything has the higher rarity. But you pitch her to send herself and the ritual card to graveyard, and then you can add any of the voice, or like essentially any ritual that you need between the warriors and dragons, and then you can use her effect to banish yourself from the graveyard to ritual summon. So she kind of acts as like the ritual spell itself, but she does add another layer of consistency. She has a body. You can use her for her levels for tributing for a ritual if you need to, but more so she does allow you to facilitate your summons a little bit quicker and gets your spell into grave, which is nice because your ritual spell actually has a graveyard effect, which is pretty useful. And then the one of the Savarus, this guy is pretty sweet. His interactions are pretty sweet. The fact that you have to put back a ritual spell and then any other spell card to summon him is pretty sweet. I'm sure everyone else that's been doing playtesting knows that it's pretty nice whenever you use Called by the Grave, or then you get to put back your one of Called by the Grave just to summon out this guy. So that resource management aspect is pretty cool. He's a level 7. Obviously, same stat lineup as the regular Ritual Ceruvus, but definitely a solid card. I don't think I would play more than 1. I haven't seen a purpose for him. He bounces himself back to your hand to special summon Ceruvus himself. So most of the time he's hitting the field, putting your resources back, and then adding himself back to your hand. You can either use him to push for game or, you know, as an extender if need be, but I think 1 is more than okay. For the ritual lineup, 2 and 2. I have played around with the Odd Eyes Pendulum. I'm trying to play test without it just to try and keep the deck as consistent as possible. Definitely not a solid option if you're thinking about playing it, or if you are trying to think of other cards that would be good. Obviously the Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, very solid option, but right now 2 and 2. I think Cerberus is insane considering it's not once per turn for either. The Vex protection gives you the ability to play through, you know, Imperm Veiler. You have to play 2 Skull Guardian. You can't get away with 1 and 3. I don't believe is necessary, but I think this lineup works pretty well. Then for the hand traps, we're doing 3 draw. I think this is definitely impactful enough right now still, this format, that I don't see any reason not to play it. Obviously you can side it out if need be, but 3 draw seems pretty staple. 3 Ash, this is controversial, I feel like, right now, or it shouldn't be, but I guess it just depends on group chats and what your people at local say. But with Fire King being so prominent, obviously this can be used as an extender, so siding this out against Fire King can make sense, but I also think that for as good as the hand trap is, it's hard to justify not trying to play Ash. It hits so much, and Fire King, it's not like Fire decks are the only decks as prominent as they are. I just think that Ash is still worth playing. If you do need to side it out, that's fine, but I play 3 Ash. 2 Nib, this could definitely be at 3 potentially in terms of utility in this deck, simply because it is a light monster, so you can use it for your ritual summons, which is pretty nice. So there's kind of a dual utility there. But just in terms of being able to interact with your opponent, you can't, like, I feel like right now it is definitely a hand trap heavy format, so you're not getting away with not playing. And then 2 Imperm. Again, either you could cut Imperms for, you know, 2nd Nib, and I guess just to get down to 40. I'm sorry, the 3rd Nib, and that would put you at 40, but that's still, I mean, that's only 9 hand traps, but it is what it is. I'm at 41, but currently main decking 10 hand traps as is, which you could try and justify trying to play more for what it's worth. I definitely don't disagree. Like if you have room for Veilers, or I guess even if you would do the other 2, that would be fine as well. With Talons being around, I mean, that is definitely something to be careful about, to try and not play into it as much. So I don't know, there's justification for all, but these are definitely, like, I would say, even DD Crow is kind of good right now. I feel like you can definitely hit some crazy shit with Crow, but I don't know how, like, high impact I would necessarily say it is. But again, this is my lineup. As the format develops, I will definitely play around with it more, but just moving forward, this is what we have dialed in. We got ulti nibs. Spells, 3 of the barrier. Again, we do not have blessing, but this card is fucking insane considering it searches anything that you need, so it gets you to any of your monsters, which in hindsight, I mean, the consistency that this card adds is unreal. Obviously it protects your monsters as well. Whenever you control low, you can only target, this is what also navigates all of your opponent's attacks into your Skull Guardian, which is your 4100 beater. So it does make it very hard to out him because he's an Omni Negate that can't essentially be targeted by anything, and it's very hard to get over 4100 attack, or it can't be. So just know that that's, I mean, you're not playing 3 of this. Again, when Blessing comes out, you're probably going to be playing at, I would say at most 2, but probably just the 1 Blessing is all that you typically need. But it is nice because, I mean, it sucks that we don't have it, but it is nice knowing that we at least have more support for the deck coming out, so that low at least has more targets to hit aside from just this and then the trap card. Because it is a ritual deck, you are playing exactly 3 pre-preparation rights. I guess you could cook this down to 2. Again, if you're trying to look for room for that 41st, or I'm sorry, for the 40th spot. But otherwise, I think 3 is totally fine. This card's insane for just consistency purposes. And then it is nice. You do, if you open up low and a spell card, that does allow you to get your Ceruvis level 7 guy online. So it is nice. It is kind of important to be able to play spells that you can kind of consistently use and put in grave. So 3 pre-pro. 3 prosperity, because seeing 11 cards on your first hand instead of 5 is pretty good. So for consistency purposes, I think 3 prot's fine. You could again cut this down if you're looking for the 40th card, but we're at 3. 3 super poly. This is why I was playtesting this in my Kairyu deck, just to kind of get playtesting for this format or to see how well it interacted. But I think super poly is really good right now. Going first, going second, I think it's a staple in this deck. You have enough space in the extra deck to play around with, so I don't think it's a bad option by any means. So if people start like really playing around this, then sure, I guess there's other options that we could go into. But for as like powerful as this card is, I think you have to play it in this deck. Even mirror matches. I mean, this unfortunately is one of the cards that crumples this deck the hardest. So we'll see how locals turns out now. Putting this out, but it is what it is. But this card is definitely really good right now, especially moving forward this format. But I could not justify playing anything less than 2. 2 of the ritual. This needs to be a super and like an OTS pack now. It's so gross that they made it a common, but it is what it is. 2 of the ritual, and then 1 of the trap, and I guess they're called by. The ritual's graveyard effect is actually kind of cool. It is kind of important, I'd say relatively important to keep 1 in grave, but if one of your rituals leaves the field by opponent's card effect, you can banish this and then special summon another one of your rituals, which can, again, if you have another low in grave, it can just reestablish a board pretty well. Or if like your opponent's able to like lava golem or something, it does allow you to reestablish. I guess just it has to be a card effect, so I guess tributing. You get what I'm saying though. So the fact that it's not just the ritual card and there is like some synergy for a graveyard effect is pretty cool. That is it for the main deck. Again, 41 side. Right here, do extra. One animum for the Nibiru. Obviously, being able to take the token is pretty sweet. I do play. I'm going to try out a Link Kribo. So for the same reason, I think. Well, here I'll get through these. Herald. Just for the negate factor with 2 fairies, I don't know how often this is going to come up. I could see Herald being taken out. The 1 SP. Have 1 Light Charmer. I am definitely going to be playing a Dark though. So with as much as people are playing Link Kribo and how, like, I would just say playing a Light and the Dark Charmer just makes a lot of sense right now. But having the Anima and Link Kribo just as easy dark targets, obviously SP is always there, but just depending on which one's a little more situational. Being able to take the token back, though, that you give your opponent makes, I mean, that's decent. But I definitely could see, there's room for interpretation, obviously, with the extra deck. The deck's still new enough. But I still think having a Light and a Dark Charmer, so that's probably one, definitely by Wednesday I will be playing a Dark Charmer, just because I think that you're going to get a lot of usage out of it. 1 Dynamondo, this definitely could be bumped up to 2. If I find a second copy by Wednesday, I might try and squeezing it in. But what this allows for ritual plays and with your low and Skull Guardian, and you're more or less turn 1, you're going for this if you aren't able to have access to both this continuous spell and trap, because it allows you to get to the trap card on your opponent's turn. And you link going into this with your Skull Guardian and low in your opponent's draw phase. It's a quick effect. You tribute and special summon the Skull Guardian. Low will then trigger, special summon herself out, and then brings out the trap card. So Dynamondo, again, if not 1, 2 copies, definitely. 1 access code, just because for OTKing, but that's why I think a Dark is really nice as well, because both the Light and Dark Charmer allow you to link climb very easily up into this. 1 Big Eye, I don't know if this is, I don't even think I would consider this mandatory at all. It is kind of fun though, because I don't know if you're able to take your opponent's monster, you play some level 7s, so it's not like you have too many options. I'm playing 1, what is this guy's? The Typhon, Sky Crisis. I don't really think Zeus is super needed in this deck, but this card is pretty insane, so definitely 1 copy. For Synchros, Herald card's insane. You can send with your Diviner, thank you, and get the search off of that and increase your level. But more importantly, I think that like I've been playtesting people online that have Maximist, which I think people will deter away from that. But I've been Crusadia Maximist before, and whenever you have to send 2 from the deck, and just having that as a target to be able to send and like make your hand just insane by adding whatever monster you need. I don't know. You're not playing one Herald. Chaos Angel and Barone. Again, I don't necessarily know if one of these is more right than the other. They're both level 10s that you can go into. If one kind of starts coming up more than the other and I can cut one, then I gladly will. But again, I haven't really had the deck out long enough to be able to definitively say one like trumps the other. But it's not like you have too many synchro options regardless, so it's trying to keep it simple. But those are definitely the best 2. 1 Mud Dragon, Ince, and Grura, obviously your super poly targets. Just another option for sending with Diviner. But I guess you could try and play like a 3rd super poly target just so that all 3 of them were live. But for what it's worth, I think this is pretty much it. Again, I think 2 Dynamundos would not be a bad idea, and then a Dark Charmer. But again, as of right now, this would definitely get you started. I don't know, other than the Dark Charmer, if there's anything in here that I don't have that I would play. Side, 3 Econ. I think for going second, this is kind of I'm going to try this out. For Low herself, if she gets hit with anything whenever you try to resolve her effect, or Diviner, being able to, chain, tribute your monster, take something from your opponent's side and use it. Maybe there's an extender, SP, what have you, but just it gives you an option to be able to break or going into your opponent's board going second. I don't know if Talents is solid, and this would be a solid option. I think it's really powerful, being able to rip a card out of your opponent's hand, but I feel like if this deck it can play under Droll a little bit, it cannot really play under Shifter. So I don't know. I'm trying this out, but again, Talents is always there. It's kind of wiggling in the back of my mind that should be playing like maybe a Talents package or Thrust or something, but we shall see. 3 Cosmic. Again, just being able to hit floodgates, especially like anti-spell. If you open up Diviner, you can send Ints to be able to hit the anti-spell, obviously if they flip that on you, but I shouldn't have to really go too much further. I've always had this in my side deck. This card's insane. I'm going to try Soul Release. We'll see how it does. But if this card proves to be crappy or people are able to play around it or start getting smart, then very easily could be swapped out to something else. But I'm not really putting people in my locals playing around it by any means. I know that there's, once you get to higher tier events, it might be less impactful depending on how people play, but at the same point in time, I feel like it would get, I don't assume people are just gonna be like, oh man, I need to play around Soul Release. It's kind of hard to do. 1 goes in, everything in your deck is light, so if you can catch a rogue ass deck off guard with it, sure. 3 summon limit. I do believe in the theory. I mean, this deck does typically just take the 2 summons. You can play your Dynamundo play. Everything revolves under this pretty well, and it shits on Fire King. It actually hurts a lot, I would say, for what it's worth. But your deck can operate pretty easily under it. And it's just a good floodgate. I don't know what else to really say. Going first, you can just steal games with it. And then the 3 evenly matched because the card's cracked. There definitely could be, I don't really know what else would change in the side other than the econs and maybe Soul Releases, but I would say everything else is pretty, you kind of want as many blowout cards as possible. But for what it's worth, again, 15 card side, 15 card extra, 41 main. I guess I can try and do a test stand or 2, see how that goes. Your ideal end board is the Guardian, the level 7 guy out, whatever hand traps, obviously the barrier. Alright. 2 more for good luck. Well, what else? Sense. Really need the link reboot, probably not. We do have nib, so we might keep the anima. They try and ash, we've got the call, but cool. Yeah, we'd definitely be taking that barrier. Then you're gonna activate. Even though these all go to the bottom of the deck, this is the card that you're gonna add with barrier. And a pitch. With her effect, she will send the ritual, and you can add. Actually, no. Would low be better? No, because low just gets you. No, unfortunately, no. So yeah, pitch. Then, well, we have to use the nib. That sucks. Vanish. His effect would activate. Which you can either go for low, normal summon, which will set the trap, or not set, but she'll activate the trap, which gives you another point of interaction. Now it sucks. Well, you can go Dynamundo, but that still doesn't. Typically with his effect, you're going to search this guy, and then he'll come out. I mean, so you've got 1 pop, a negate, ash, and called by if they didn't ash you. So I guess that's technically 4 interactions, so I'm not saying like that's horrible by any means, because you got the Omni of the pop. So sure, 4 points of interactions, I mean, it didn't seem like that great, but that's what you'd be, you have the barrier for follow-up as well. Do 1 more. All right. Well, if you get hand trapped here, you're fucked. But such is Yu-Gi-Oh. So it's just gonna pitch. Send, you already have both, so it really doesn't matter. You're gonna use her effect to banish. Send 1 to special. Skull Guardian's effect. God, this. Activate. Well, we'll search her normal summon. On summon, she'll activate barrier. Barrier effect. Can add 1 voiceless voice monster. We could add the queen. We don't really need. I feel like the but you can either do the queen for follow-up or this guy. You don't have... Oh, well, I mean, I guess we can summon him, but I don't know if that's bad tur because you're going to get rid of your super poly and... Maybe queen would be bad tur simply because she has a graveyard effect until you need... Because you could pitch and actually get value off of that with super poly. But if you had another spell card that like your pre-prep or pot, then you would have 2 spells in grave and you could technically go for the other guy. But again, you do, if you can time it or have like a queen that you use after and just dump another spell, like ritual spell, then it's typically fine. Excuse me. So you can have the super poly set, lick these 2 off. For Dynamundo. They have duel in hand. The Ceruvus, I mean, if they tried to like ever imperm or hit any of your shit, at the beginning there, obviously the Ceruvus is protection, but on your opponent's turn, in their draw phase, you're going to Dynamundo effect, summon Skull Guardian, which will then trigger low, so Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, special summon low, level set, and then he will search. And by set, I mean activate, but Skull Guardian, and then the trap card. So then at this point you have the 1 negate, the 1 pop, the super poly, and the dual unlock bird. So again, 4 points of interaction, which I mean consistently, I would say like that's not uncommon, just like 4 points of interaction, which that's not horrible. It can play under hand traps or around hand traps. It just depends on where you get hit and what the rest of your hand looks like. But the follow-up and consistency of the deck, I mean, it is kind of linear, but that's Yu-Gi-Oh! So until we get some crazier shit. But I do think the art and like the whole deck, like the retrain from Skull Guardian's insane. I love old school shit. But yeah, I knew I was going to be playing the deck for quite a while and wanted to bring you guys a profile. So I hope you guys like it, but thank you. Obviously, you'll definitely be seeing some footage of the deck coming out here shortly, but in due time. So thanks guys, and until next time.